pjnet.tv. It is 9 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. We have a brand new week, the week of Christmas. And we are starting out with a first-time guest who is standing by in our green room. And we are recording for quality assurance. We are streaming. And we have a chat room waiting. We have our guest waiting. Let's count it down to Studio 12, starting now. Well, good evening and Merry Christmas. Welcome to a brand new week here at pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasick. We are opening Studio 12 for the first time in a long time. So good to kind of dust off the old studio, and we don't get to use it that often, but we're glad you're here. Hey, if you're watching this on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, we sure are glad that you stopped by. We're honored. We do want to invite you to join the real party. Is happening over at, well, pjnet.tv. You can watch the same program there, and there are friends there waiting to send you friend requests on Facebook, follow you on Twitter. It's the sweetest fellowship on the internet, really. Best kept secret, okay? Well, it's always great to have first-time guests, and I want to thank Ben Cooper, who, along with, apparently, Stephanie Pavlantos, helped secure our guest, who I will bring onto the PJNet big screen, and his name is Elijah Holston. Now, Elijah, you are hanging around with some very old people, myself included. How did you find yourself in the company of the likes of Ben Cooper and Stephanie Pavlantos, who are old enough to be perhaps your grandfather?
Well, so I've been interviewing authors for this app I'm starting. And I interviewed like pretty much all the writers that I knew. And then once I interviewed all of them, I did a post on a Facebook group. And I started contacting authors through there. And people started contacting me. And then I just started making connections. And then I interviewed one person, a really nice lady. And she told me about Stephanie. And so that's how I connected with her. And then Stephanie told me about Ben.
And then Ben told you about us, and we're okay.
Yeah.
You're making it around. Now, you're calling these interviews, and I guess they are, in one sense of the word, but it's not like a podcast or a news program. It sounds like you're just trying to get content, for one, for your site, but also did it help you gain insight into how writers think? Because the app that you're envisioning is going to be specifically to help writers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm actually a writer myself, so I understand a lot of things about like what writers do, and it's like I'm a screenwriter actually. But yeah, so out of all the interviews that I've done of all the amazing authors and screenwriters that I've interviewed, I've learned so much just myself as a writer myself, and like I'm actually currently working on a screenplay with a friend, and it's going so well because of all of this information I've gotten from people. So I know that it'll help people on the app, but I'm also benefiting from this as well.
Okay. So when you do the interview, how do you do it? Do you do like a Zoom meeting, or what's the mechanics look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so pretty much I just send them a Zoom link, and then they come on and I record it, and we do it's typically about a half hour. It's just a half hour long interview, and I ask them some questions about their writing process. And then at the last question I ask them is like to give some tips to new writers. And then what I do, I get these interviews and I edit them into short little videos based on specific topics. And I'll be uploading those to the app. It's called Writer's Talk. It's an app for both Android, iOS, and there'll be a website version as well. And I'll be uploading that when it launches next month.
Now you have in anticipation of this launch next month, being January of 2022, you have interviewed north of 100 people already. How long did it take you to get those interviews?
Let's see. I think I did my first interview in mid-October. So I did. I think it was about 60 days. I did my first 100.
It's a pretty intense schedule. Do you have time to do anything else?
Uh, yeah, what I normally do, I normally book it just for a few days a week. So I'll do like 8 interviews, like 2 or 3 days a week, and then the other days I'll do other stuff. Like when I first started, the first month or so, I actually had a part-time job that I was doing as well. So I was trying to balance that with the interviews. Um, but yeah, so I kind of balanced it a little bit. I don't like right now my family's eating dinner downstairs and I'm up here. So
Yeah.
I kind of just put this ahead of everything for
Ha-
now.
have you found people receptive to offering you content that I assume you intend to profit from this? Uh, do they just want to just offer their content for the good of humanity, or do they ask questions of you like, well, how
Yeah,
much you
so
paying me? Yeah.
yeah, well, what I've noticed is that um, people who've come, people who've learned a lot of stuff doing whatever it is. So in this topic, it's writing. People who have learned a lot from their writing process in their writing journey, they love to share with new writers, and it just in general, from what I've learned from all industries, is that people who have experience like to share that experience with new people. And that's just what I've learned, and most people are willing to do it for free.
Yes, I found that I came from a more competitive environment, Elijah, where there's an old it's attributed to Indian little piece of wisdom. There's two rules to success. The first is don't tell everything you know. And then you pause and people say, what's the second? I say, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not. So, but I found it interesting dealing with writers, specifically Christian writers. That they really sincerely seem to be interested in helping each other. There doesn't seem to be much secret, trade secret holding, and there doesn't seem to be the mistrust and standoffishness that you would find. I've been to competitive environments, say a convention, where all of your competitors will be there, and of course we're civilized and we make small talk. But no, I'm not about to help my competitor uh, hone his craft. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I have noticed that as well. That like in the Christian, like the Christian writers are more open to that, like sharing what they've learned.
all right, 115 interviews. These are done on Zoom, and you're going to have these stored. So let's focus on the app. You've
Okay.
got this idea that writers need an app. Where did that idea come from?
Um, let's see. I think it was last year. There was several different things. So the first thing I read this stat that 81% of people want to write a book. It was a New York Times article, but only about 5% or even less actually do. So that gave me the initial idea that like there's a bunch of people out there that want to write books that aren't writing their books. So that was the initial idea, and then I was I was reading some stuff. I read an article and I was watching this thing about Mark Zuckerberg, and I know that like he isn't like the best guy or whatever. And there's a bunch of things there that are like questionable. But just like his business, like just reading that just gave me an idea. Like, wait, like he built this website, and like now like that's an app, and so that gave me the idea that like there could be an app out there. And then there's a bunch of different things that came together. Um, and I forget exactly where everything was, how everything came together, but it all just came together in one spot. And I was like, I want to build an app for this. And the initial idea was just to build like a social media of sorts, and that was the initial idea, and that's where I started working on the app. From there, I'm hiring a developer, and that was just the basic feature at first, and then as it's come along, I've added different features that actually make it unique. Because now I realize that there's so many social medias out there, or types like different types of social medias for writers. So there's
Is
a
there?
bunch of different features that actually make this unique now.
So yeah, what are you up against? I'm not that familiar with the landscape. What's out there? If you're a writer, what are the resources out there now?
Well, first you just have a bunch of Facebook groups for writers, and those are helpful, like for community. Um, and but some of the main things are like I've noticed, like you can post like a story or a document, but then it'll get like lost after a while. And so in this app that I'm building, you can actually post your documents, and then other writers can post like reviews. They can comment on it as like reviews, and they can rate it, um, which I think would be helpful, like to get peer reviews. And then one thing that I know is like, I know like myself personally, I know a lot of other writers, especially when you're first starting out, like you're kind of afraid to get reviews and to get like negative feedback on what you've done. So the comment section is divided into two sections, one for praise and one for critique. So if a writer isn't feeling like they're wanting that critique right then, they can just click on praise. And maybe if they're wanting to feel good about themselves, so they have that option. Or if they're wanting to see anything that they could improve, they just click on critique and read that. So that's another feature. And then another feature which I'm the most proud about, and I think will really really make this app special and make people really like it, is and will really be helpful, is, so I'll explain it like this. So it's almost like a writing prompt. Once a week I'll type in like a little short phrase in this feature, and writers can read that phrase, and then they have to film themselves, or they get to film themselves coming up with a short story less than 60 seconds long based on that little phrase. And I've actually done this for like years myself as a writer, just to help me come up with ideas. I'll go to like my siblings. I'll be like, hey, say a random word, and they have to say it, and then I have to come up with a story on the spot. And I've noticed when I do that, then my creative juices start flowing, and then like tons of ideas come to my mind. Just even though might have been something like totally random, like you might have said like pillow, like something totally random. So that's kind of what this is, and it's going to be It's going to be formatted like TikTok or Instagram Reels, where you can just watch other people's stories like that or make your own.
Where are you going to house all this stuff? That's going to turn into a lot of data, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. So I have a developer who has all of that all figured out. I'm not that tech savvy, but so I pay him because he knows how to do it.
Okay. And did you have to go get a job just to pay him?
Yeah. Yep. I did. I actually my brother and I started a landscaping company a while ago, and then he started doing it professionally because we were just doing it like just some kids with a lawnmower, pretty much. So he did that, and I worked for him, and then he sold it to a different guy. And so I worked for him. I told him I was going to work until I earned $10,000, and I did that in 3 months. And then that was enough money to start this. And I also had a friend who gave me a little bit of money for just to start it before I had that money.
Well, the case studies you've done, Mark Zuckerberg, you mentioned, Facebook was started on just such a inspiration as that. Google, the same thing. Apple, almost the same thing in a different world. You yourself are a writer. You've mentioned screenwriting a couple of times tonight. What kind of work you doing there? What have you done? What do you plan to do? Are you going to put that on the back burner until you get this app done, or what's the future look for your screenwriting?
Yeah, so pretty much I've written 2 screenplays, and so the idea for movie, my family and I started making like little short films when I was 8, but then I decided to like start professionally when I was like 16, and so I directed one feature film that a friend of mine wrote, and it wasn't like the best quality or whatever, but it was a good experience, and then I decided that I wanted to write the next one, so I wrote a screenplay that we actually just shot earlier this year that's being edited. And then I wrote a different screenplay with 2 other screenwriters who have a lot of experience with that. So it was all 3 of us, and we wrote like this Christian action film, which we'll be shooting in a few years. But yeah, so pretty much like you're saying, like putting it on a back burner, that's pretty much what I'm doing. For now, I'm kind of putting that aside until I can get writer's talk on the road and kind of get that going. And then once that is to such a level that I could hire somebody else to manage it, then I'll go back into working on it. But like I am doing a little bit of screenwriting. Like currently I'm working on a screenplay for an hour a week with a friend of mine, and we're writing a screenplay, but that isn't my main focus.
Well, I see 2 scenarios, Elijah. One is, until now, my take is that writers' conferences has been the go-to resource for networking finding new people, divine appointments. Also, the breakout classes that they have on honing the craft, and that probably has served the writing community very well until COVID. And now there's the demand for honing the craft hasn't changed, I presume, but the venue has, because writers' conferences they're going to make a comeback, but I don't think it'll ever be the way it was. Everything's being done electronically now. So did that enter in your mind as you began? Is this sort of a response to that, or is it just a lucky coincidence that more and more content delivery and development of writers is going to be done electronically?
Come to think of it, this is the first time I've actually ever thought about that. I didn't actually think about that till now. I guess I just always known that, so pretty much the way that makes this, writer conferences are super cool, and I would recommend any new writers to go there. I've interviewed several people who are directors of writers conferences, but this is more on a day-to-day basis. So if a writer's in the moment, they can get help right then. So
now,
that's
one of the things that you hope to do is basically catalog and make searchable. If you're struggling with whatever the topic is, this app you will be able to search for help of a specific scope. Is that what makes it different?
Yes. Yeah, that is one of the main features, the videos, so that what you're saying, they can get instant help. So if a writer has, say, let's say that they're stuck in the muddy middle, which is what a lot of people call the second act of a screenplay or a book, and they're having questions about there and they're not really sure where to go. They can type that into the app, and I've interviewed tons of people on that specific subject, so they'll have an option of watching several videos on that specific topic. And one thing that I've found is that there are so many interviews out there, but for this specifically, they're cut into very short videos on specific topics, so you don't have to watch a 30-minute interview to get the little snippet that you need. You can just watch that little snippet.
That is way cool. Well, the good news is with the landscape changing, on in-person learning, whether it be in school or at writers' conferences or anything else, that's going to create some enormous opportunity. But this has sent publishers into a tailspin, because the delivery, the logistics, the printing, the ink, the paper, the amount of square footage, the shipping, the transit. People are realizing that electronic delivery is very, very efficient, but it is loaded with, it is a minefield, because once you put it out there, if you print a book and you put it in a store, chances are, if that book leaves a store, money got left in the register. Chances are, okay? Not so electronically.
That's true.
You can put a lot of content out there and hope. We've only got a couple minutes left. How do you intend to monetize this?
So there's a subscription. So for the first 1,000 people, pretty much, if you know anybody that I've interviewed, they'll post a link, and it'll be $1.99, or they'll do something, and it'll be $1.99 if you get any promo codes from them. So that'll be $1.99 a month for the first 1,000 people that use those links, and then from then on it'll be $4.99 a month, or $29.99 a month. So we did that so that it's if you want to get a whole year, it's only about half the price. Which is a pretty good deal. But yeah, so that's pretty much what we decided on. It's $4.99 a month, which is the price of a coffee. So you give up one coffee a month, to be able to become a better writer.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, no matter where you find yourself, chances are good you can eke out $5. Where a lot of the, some of the more serious stuff, you can spend thousands of dollars on consultants and coaches and editors and this, and blah, blah, blah. But interesting idea. You think you're going to be launched in January?
Yes. So our initial plan was to launch it about 2 weeks ago. But then I talked to a few marketing people, and they were saying that this is probably the worst time to launch anything because of all everything about Christmas, because everybody's thinking about Christmas gifts, which is really cool, but it's just a bad time to launch anything new. And then the guy was saying that launching it in January is the best time because people are making New Year's resolutions, and a lot of those people, at least some people, are saying I want to write a book this year.
Yeah,
so
a lot of introspection.
So this will be a great tool.
Yeah, a lot of introspection goes on. That last week of December, first 2 weeks, when I was a personal trainer, the gym would fill up, with people in January, and it's like, let's see when March comes around how many are really committed, and we'll find out. But Elijah, this is going to be interesting. We'll be looking for the app. It'll be called
Writer's Talk.
Writer's Talk. Have you got a website set up for it yet?
So the website will be launching at the same time as the app. But for now, we have a Facebook page.
Okay. So Writers Talk on Facebook. Find him. Elijah Holston is the proprietor and the inspiration behind it at the grand old age of 19, right?
Yeah.
Quite the entrepreneur for a man your age, and it's encouraging to hear it. Elijah, best of luck, and always hang around with PJNet because there are a lot of writers to be found here. We've interviewed some 200 different guests on our program. Most of them, the vast majority, are writers. So you're welcome to hang out with us. We're on here, twice a night. And 9 o'clock and 9:30 Eastern. So come hang out with us, my man, and good luck to you, and keep us updated, okay?
Okay, I will. Thank you so much.
All right, Elijah, appreciate you visiting with us. That was Elijah Holston. What an ambitious young man. You don't see that much these days, do you? You don't. So, all right. Well, folks, it's not over. At the bottom of the hour, 9:30, Casper Stockham comes our way every Monday about that time, and he's got plenty on his mind, and I guarantee you that I guarantee you'll want to hear what he's got to say. And I've got a few things to do between now and then, but while I'm doing those, I'd like you to consider 2 questions and think hard before you answer yourself. Here's the first question. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for the kingdom of Christ? I'm not waiting on your answer. You just answer yourself. Here's the second question, and it's the tougher of the two. How long ago was that? You see, to accomplish anything worthwhile, it's going to take some teamwork, but it's going to take some courage. And I hope that none of us will be satisfied with our answers to either of those 2 questions.